everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're coming at you with our week 4 preview picks, fantasy football, and betting plays for every single game of week 4. Some awesome games on the slate this week. And some breaking news. Me and Stores literally seconds before recording the pod here, right before we hit record, we just agreed to a trade. I'm going to read off the trade right here. I want to hear who won the trade. I traded to Stores. I traded him Braylon Allen, Zach Moss, and Kyron Williams, 3 pretty solid running backs, for Jalen Waddle, Bijan Robinson, and Jonathan Brooks. So I want to hear who won the trade in the comments. It's a very interesting trade. I am 3-0. He's 2-1. We're 2 of the top teams in the league. So it should benefit both of us. I'm a little bit nervous about it. I do have a chance. I'm taking on Waddle. So I'm going to have 2 Dolphins, but I do really love Bijan. So it's interesting. How are you, Stores? How are you feeling about the trade?
I got the shakes. We're just starting the podcast after we did this. Our group message is exploding. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, I'm very excited. It's now gonna be on my mind this entire podcast. But yeah, it was the first big blockbuster trade 3 weeks into the season, and it's funny that me and Dan are getting it done. Dan takes on Bijan Robinson, who's a little bit underperformed thus far, so he ends up giving me Kyron and Zach Moss. But yeah, just you let me know. You let me know how I did. Obviously, the Jalen Waddle, Dan's got the team to sit it out and wait for Jalen Waddle to get Tua back and to be pretty good again. But yeah, it's definitely a fun trade. But just let us know who won in the comment. I'm gonna be a little shaky this podcast, not gonna lie.
I never wanted to come back more bad in my life. I really need to come back now. Zach Moss leaving does hurt me because I have him, and I'm not kidding, every single one of my leagues. And now this is the only league that I won't have Zach Moss, and I think he's going to go off against the Panthers this week. But with all that being said, we'll talk more about it throughout the episode. Let's get on to our betting segment. I have just 2 lock of the weeks this week because these are 2 absolute free locks. These lines are just ridiculously low. Najee Harris has ran for 69, 70, and 70 yards in all 3 games. He has gone over 65 rushing yards in every single game. Jaylen Warren likely is not playing in this game, and the Colts' run defense is insanely soft. So Najee Harris getting over 65 rushing yards to me is the easiest, freest line of all of the games this weekend. So take that. And then ironically, the other lock for me is a Steelers lock. Chris Boswell, I've taken this line all 3 weeks so far, and he's hit it all 3 weeks. So I'm going to keep riding Chris Boswell making 2 field goals until he misses, or until he doesn't hit it. So these are just complete locks to me. I think they're free.
Yeah, I absolutely love those. Chris Boswell and Brandon Aubrey are probably the 2 best field goal kickers in the league, and their teams get in the red zone often with how they're playing. So just absolute locks. Take them for some free money. Dan, before we got on, told me he's 100% confident if you do these, you will win money this week. So just throwing that out there. These are free locks. You got Dan's 100% guaranteed to win money.
Yep, 3 free lines this week. Trust me, with the Steelers playing that soft Colts defense. But let's get on to it. Let's go on to our Thursday night football game. The 1-2 Cowboys are going to go into New York, play the 1-2 Giants. The Cowboys are 6-point favorites at home. The Giants showed some more competence on offense last week. They beat the Browns, pretty big win, coming off of 2, rough losses to start the season. This guy, Malik Neighbors, is looking like an absolute revelation, just a top physically like a top 5 receiver in the NFL already. He just looks awesome. He looks like a freak going up against CeeDee Lamb, who I think CeeDee Lamb has a huge, huge game in this one in New York. I think it's going to be a battle of 2 absolute superstar receivers. I'll get my pick right out of the way, though. I'm going to go with Dallas to kind of bounce back after some rough performances at home. I think they get things going here on the road in New York. This Giants secondary hasn't been the strongest. I think Dak and CeeDee get some things going in this one. So I'm going to take Dallas. I do think it will be a somewhat competitive game. I'm still trying to decide if I want to start the Cowboys defense because I could see Daniel Jones, picking up on the momentum from last week and scoring some points. So I'm a little bit scared about starting the Cowboys defense, but I do think Cowboys win in, a pretty close game.
Well, I'm just going to tell a little funny story. Last year, our buddy Shane, who appeared on the podcast at the beginning days of this, asked the famous fantasy footballers week 1 of last year if he should start Daniel Jones versus the Cowboys. And their response was, poo-poo Daniel Jones versus a good Dallas defense. Do not start Daniel Jones. So I just thought that was funny and just a little story I just barely remembered on the start. But yeah, I'm not the Dallas defense has definitely declined this season. Dallas's team is definitely, they didn't get better. We talked about this in the offseason. They were the one of the only teams that didn't improve. They really only just got worse. They did not add anything or do anything in free agency or the draft to really improve their roster. They only decline. And so we're kind of seeing the remnants of this. But again, I still think the Dallas Cowboys are a more talented team. I think they're better. I think they got Daniel Jones's number. However, I still expect Malik Neighbors to be a dog. So from a fantasy aspect, start Malik Neighbors every week. He is wide receiver 1 in fantasy right now. He's gone off the past 2 weeks. He is the second coming of Odell, like Danny has told you before. But I am taking the Cowboys in this one, and I'm feeling confident. In a poor, you know, kind of just degrading Cowboys team. I expect a big bounce back this week versus the Giants.
Yeah, this shouldn't be like the Cowboys Giants games of past. It shouldn't be that 50-point dominant performance from the Cowboys. I do think it'll be a closer matchup, but I do see the Cowboys kind of bouncing back here and prevailing. Going into fantasy, don't need to talk about the stars. Neighbors is a top 10 receiver at this point. CD's like a top one receiver at this point. The fringe options in this game, I do think Devin Singletary has a pretty solid game going up against a soft Cowboys run defense. I'm playing against Singletary, not excited about it because I think he's going to score in this matchup. Really the only fringe option for the Giants. I'm not looking to start Wan'Dale Robinson, especially against the secondary. For the Cowboys, you can put Rico Dowdle in your flex. I'd much rather, roster him over Zeke at this point. He is their starter, but I'm not really excited about it. They spread their ball around to everyone. You see Turpin scoring touchdowns. It's just kind of gross. For me, it's just CD and Jake Ferguson is the must starts, and then Dowdle's a dart throw, a deep dart throw, and then Dak is kind of being faded at this point. I'm not loving what I'm seeing from Dak for fantasy, but I think that might be about it.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on Jake Ferguson real quick. Um, like you said, obviously he's a must start, but also somebody you should probably look to go trade for in fantasy. I feel like his value is very fair right now. And if you went and look at his target share from last week, he got 11 targets. So just expect that because he is the Cowboys wide receiver too. So, if you can target Jake Ferguson, offer up, drum something up that's, intriguing to a league member because I think his value is plenty fair to go trade for right now.
Yep, Jake Ferguson's definitely a trade for target, a huge piece of this offense. Brandon Aubrey's the league winner at this point, but we'll go on to the next game, the first of the 1 p.m. Sunday slates. The Minnesota Vikings, who are 3-0, are going to go into Green Bay, into Lambeau, and play the Packers, who are 2-1, 2 wins in a row without Jordan Love out there. Malik Willis is on fire, 2 wins in a row. The Packers are 2.5-point favorites, though, because it looks like Jordan Love will be back this week. He'll make his return after getting injured in week 1. Really excited about it. I think it's going to be an electric matchup. The Vikings are playing just surgical, perfect football, just beat a really great football, two really great football teams. They just beat the Texans and 49ers. That's pretty crazy to think about, honestly. Flores is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. But I'm going to get my pick out of the way. I got to take the Packers. I think Matt LaFleur is a top 3 play caller in the NFL, and I do think he's one of the few people that can outduel Brian Flores. He has in the past. The Packers have kind of owned the Vikings, and I do think that continues in Lambeau at home. I'm going to take the Jordan Love-led Packers to beat the hot, best-looking team in the NFL, Sam Darnold's Vikings. If Love doesn't go, I definitely got to go Vikings, but I do think he goes. So I think him and Jaden Reed have a pretty fun game here, and they get the W.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the more fun matchups of the week for sure. As a Packers team with Malik Willis, winning 2 games in a row is quite impressive. So yeah, if you get Jordan Love back, you should have a big step up in confidence and it should be a very competitive good game. But however, I'm not going against these Vikings right now. They're playing way too hot. Their brand of football is incredible. Like you said, Brian Flores is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL at the moment. And like we just saw him give Brock Purdy, they put him in shambles. So, this Vikings team's hot. Sam Darnold's playing surgical football. Justin Jefferson's on fire. Aaron Jones is playing good. Their whole team's just clicking right now. And so for the moment, And even if Jordan Love plays, I'm still confident in the Vikings. I think they will attack him. I think he's not going to be 100% if he goes out there. And Brian Flores is going to bring the house. He's one of the best defensive schemers when it comes to blitzing in the NFL. So I expect a lot of pressure to be on Jordan Love. I think this is a tough first game back, and I think it'll take a minute to get into the groove of things. But yeah, I'm going to be rocking with Brian Flores and the Vikings here.
Yeah, I love it. I think finally we picked differently because the last few weeks we've been on the exact same wavelength. But this is going to be a great game. It really is kind of a coin toss in this one. Going on to fantasy, I do have an interesting start sit decision in a lot of my leagues. I have Jordan Love in a lot of my leagues, and I also picked up Sam Darnold in a lot of my leagues. And I think I'm going to be starting Darnold over Love this week specifically, just because of how hot Darnold is. Love coming off the injury. The Vikings defense is incredible. I think I will be starting Sam Darnold actually over Love, just for anyone that has a start sit decision that's similar to that. Obviously, you know who you're starting star wise for the Vikings. You don't need to talk about Aaron Jones and Jefferson. Fringe wise, I think Addison is a start if he comes back. I'm not really excited to start him just because we haven't, seen him healthy. I don't want him to re-aggravate that injury or anything. So I'm not like smashing Jordan Addison into my lineup, but I can definitely be comfortable with him taking over that Naylor role. And then for the Packers, Jaden Reed's like a top 15-ish wide receiver play for me this week. I think he's going to be awesome with Jordan Love back. And then with Jordan Love back, you can kind of be more confident starting Watson and then Dobbs and even Wicks in a deeper league. Tucker Kraft could be a really, really good dart throw at tight end. So I think you can target this game. It should be pretty high scoring.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. One player I'm going to throw out there for you. What'd you think about overall, what do you think about the Vikings running back room? What do you think about Emmanuel Wilson actually having a pretty decent game and getting 12 carries last week versus Tennessee?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs' run share has gone down every week, which is interesting. But I do think with Jordan Love coming back, it kind of evens out and Josh Jacobs gets more of a workload here. Wilson is someone that you should be rostering. He is exciting, but I don't think you can really put him in your flex yet unless he proves to have more of a 50-50 split again this week with Love. But I think it kind of goes away from that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's going to be interesting to see how they split this backfield moving forward, but I 100% agree. I think if Emmanuel Wilson is still on your waiver wire, he's definitely worth a bench spot. And this is a good week to determine what his role moving forward will be against a fantastic Vikings team. And it'll be interesting to see how Josh Jacobs does. But I think, with the rest of the fantasy stuff, you kind of summed it up perfectly. But, this might be a Dan Stores game of the week right here. So you better tune in.
Yeah, this actually is the Seekers game of the week for sure. This is going to be an awesome game. I had to put it first for the Sunday games, but we'll go on to the next Sunday game. The 2-1 Philly Eagles are going to go into Tampa and play the 2-1 Buccaneers. The Eagles are 2.5 point road favorites in this one. This one is going to be my coin flip of the week game because it is very close. Don't know who to pick still. The Bucks are really banged up on that defensive line. Cansey and Vita Vea both missed last week, and that really hurt them against the Broncos. Antoine Winfield missed as well the last few weeks, which is really painful for that defense. So, on the other side, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are both very questionable. They could both miss in this one. So it makes it really, really hard to pick. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I do think they're a little bit just of a better team, a little bit healthier. That Bucks defense, all their stars are banged up. So I do think Hurts has a pretty nice game here. Hopefully one of Brown or Smith can play. If they can't, it is really just a coin flip. I'm not confident at all, but I will pick the Eagles in this one. I think Saquon just been a revelation. I think Saquon has a huge game. Had to put Bucky Irving on the graphic because I think he's starting to take over as the number one running back for the Bucks. He definitely looks like their best running back. So should be a fun game on the ground. It should be pretty close. Playoff matchup, rematch. So it's going to be a good one, but I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Yeah, this is a super intriguing game. This is kind of one I flip-flop back and forth on. It's hard to decide. I mean, last week if the Buccaneers hadn't just had that game against the Broncos, I'd have been confident in picking the Bucks 100% in this one. But that game really did scare me against the Broncos and raised a lot of concerns. However, I'm not completely out on the Bucks, but I do agree with you. I feel like the Eagles are a little bit more healthy. I feel like they've established their identity through 3 weeks a little bit better. And this man on the graphic right here, Saquon Barkley, he is just different, man. And we all knew it was coming, and I can't believe we didn't call our shots a little bit louder with how good Saquon Barkley behind a competent offensive line is. I mean, this dude is different. I mean, it's fun. It looks like rookie Saquon Barkley is back. He's just rejuvenated, refreshed. He is fantasy running back number one right now. And dude, he's just awesome. I can't say enough good things. And I really like him and Jalen Love's chemistry right now. I like the way they're running their offense. I love the way Kellen Moore is calling the plays. I think it's fantastic. But like you said, if AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are both out for this, which it kind of looks like they are, it is concerning. But I do have enough confidence in this Eagles offensive line and running game just to overwhelm the Bucks just enough to knock them off.
Yeah, it really is such a hard one to call. Going into fantasy for the Bucks, you're starting those star receivers. Don't need to talk about it. Rashad White, you're really moving down your rankings. You can start him in the flex for the receiving game, but that's it. He brings nothing in the rushing game. He is just so inefficient. It's bad. Bucky Irving is almost getting to the point where he's a better start in the flex than Rashad White. So you're scared as hell as a White owner. Bucky Irving is just the stash of the year, really. Him and Braylon Allen are the two best stashes in fantasy right now. And then onto the Eagles, you definitely have to start Dallas Goedert. He's coming off a huge, huge game. The tight end won because of that game. And if no AJ Brown and Smith go, I'm not really looking to start any of those receivers. And then it's just Saquon. So I think this one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you summed that up perfectly. Should be another interesting game. Two teams that are just playing fringy, weird football. But yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles, just with how they're playing football right now, just should be able to get it done.
Yeah, speaking of interesting games, let's go on to this one. The 2-1 Saints are going to go into Atlanta and play the 1-2 Falcons. The Falcons are 2.5 point home favorites in this one. And this one's damn near another coin flip to me, a divisional matchup. This is really, I think this is going to be huge for the NFC South, division winner at the end of the day. So this is going to be a big matchup in Atlanta in the Superdome. It's a really hard one to predict. I'm still kind of going back and forth on this one as well. Could totally see the Falcons coming away with it at home. Their defense has been playing pretty stellar. Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons have been a revelation. They should have probably won against the Chiefs, if I'm being honest. It looked like they could have got away with that at the end. That penalty was a little bit suspect there at the end. But I am going to go with the Saints in this one. I think they do bounce back after a tough loss against the Eagles. They were competitive all game. They held the offense to a very, very low scoring output day. So I think the Saints defense really gives Kirk trouble with obviously they don't have their center. Their offensive line is pretty banged up. It looks like Caleb McGarry might not play. So I do think the Saints defense could overwhelm Kirk, who's not the most mobile in this one. And I mean, Eric McCoy's out too. So that Saints offensive line's banged up as well. It should be a little bit of an ugly game, but give me the Saints, who looked really, really hot to start the season. I don't think they've fully fallen off yet. So I'm going to take Kubiak Saints to get the road win in a very close kind of whoever has the ball last, game-winning field goal type of game.
I am exactly on the same wavelength. I was hoping you'd go Falcons so we could pick differently. But, I 100% agree with all your points right there. They played the Philadelphia Eagles really close. It was a really close game. And on the other side, like you said, I thought the Falcons should have beat the Saints. Or sorry, excuse me, not the Saints. Should have beat in the Chiefs. But yeah, you make one mistake against the Chiefs, the ball doesn't fall your way, the Chiefs will take advantage and beat you every single time, especially when it comes down to crunch time. So you just can't make any errors against the Chiefs. You have to be perfect. But both these teams are playing really, really good football. And this is could be another future, playoff match right here. This could be, I could see both these teams in the NFC Championship game, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit more confident in the Saints. Obviously, they played a hard match, hard fought game against the Eagles, but I do expect them to bounce back. I think their offense is just rolling a little bit better. I feel like the chemistry is just a little bit more there. And so yeah, it's weird to say this, but I am a little bit more confident in Derek Carr than I am Kirk Cousins at the moment. So yeah, I will be riding with Derek Carr and the Saints.
Yeah, weird to say, but Clint Kubiak has been awesome. Zach Robinson has been awesome. This is a really almost just a wash of a game. It's very, very hard to pick. Going into fantasy for the Saints, I think you need to start Rashid Shaheed every single week in the flex. You just can't predict when he's going to have those dud weeks, when he's going to have those boom weeks. You don't want to be on the wrong side of history benching him when he has those boom weeks. So you got to keep him in your flex if you're a Shaheed owner. Obviously, Olave, Kamara, you smash start. Derek Carr could be a pretty nice dart throw, but he might throw some picks in this one. The Falcons secondary is pretty awesome. And then onto the Falcons, I think Donald Mooney could actually be a pretty good flex play. He gets a lot of volume. He seems to be the first read for a lot of plays. He gets those screen out bubble routes. So I do think Darnell Mooney's actually a pretty solid flex play, and this one definitely should be rostered at the very least. And then obviously Drake London, Bijan, you're starting, and that should be it. I don't think there's any other fringe guys.
Yeah, and I just want to speak a little bit on Darnell Mooney. In the last two games, 7 and 8 targets. So his target share is good. Kirk Cousins likes to target him intermediate, deep part of the field. So yeah, I think he is kind of like a start moving forward. I think his volume, his target share, Kirk Cousins' confidence in his route running and getting him the ball is just it's there. It seems to be clicking. And obviously the team's number one is always going to be on Drake London. So I think Darnell Mooney is a great flex start moving forward. And like you said, Raheed Shaheed is just, you can never predict it, but that 80, 90-yard touchdowns, going to come every other week or so. So it's just like you have to play him. And then yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think there's any more or other borderline starts. I feel like Chris Olave is really starting to heat up. I think he's going to be awesome moving forward. I think honestly, like top 10 wide receiver. I think people at the beginning of the year just forgot how good Chris Olave is, but I think he'll prove it even against the tough Falcons secondary with two incredible safeties.
All right, we're both picking the road dogs here. Don't have to watch it. A seeker's guarantee, and then we'll go on to the next one. The 0-3 Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go into Houston, play the 2-1 Texans, who are 6.5-point home favorites in this one, and for pretty good reason. I think they actually definitely cover this spread because those Jaguars are looking rough. That offense is looking bad. It looks like Peterson will be the first coach to get fired. Trevor Lawrence, I'll hold my hand up. I was wrong. I think even last week you asked me if I was panicking on him, and I said no. I'm panicking. I'm almost damn near out on Trevor Lawrence. I think the thing is with him is he is what he is. We know what he is. He's a solid quarterback. He'll have those flashes where he makes some brilliant, Andrew Luck type of throws, but he's just not consistent. I think he just is what he is at this point. That he could totally get benched sometime this season. Could totally see that. That's the kind of the point we're at here. I put Tank Bigsby on this graphic because Trevor Etienne, what do you do? I mean, is it Travis Etienne? I get both of the
Yes.
Etienne brothers
Trevor's
mixed
the
up.
brother.
Playing too much of the college football video game. But Etienne, what do you do, man? Because he has no explosion. He does not look like a running back, no vision. Bigsby just looks much more, he has much more juice. And I think it's a very scary thing with this Jaguars offense. I think Trevor's on bench watch, really. I think Peterson's on a huge hot seat. So give me the Texans in this one. I think they easily cover the spread. I think they're gonna be pissed off after losing to the to the Vikings. They kind of got their ass whooped against the Vikings, really. So I think they're gonna be pissed off here at home, and they definitely bounce back in a big divisional matchup and get the W. I think Stroud has a pretty nice offensive output versus the soft Jags secondary, and I think the defense kind of smacks Trevor Lawrence's ass, really.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about this game. I think, we should be betting, 6.5 more games over or under for how long Doug Peterson is the head coach of this football team. I think at this point, Jaguars, this is a team very playoff hopeful, drafted Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, this was a team that is just underperforming. It does not look good at all. It's just bad vibes in Jacksonville right now. And at this point, I'm in on the Ben Johnson sweepstakes. I'm already thinking about who's our next head coach. I'm thinking about who can help revive Trevor Lawrence's career just after these first three games. It's just been pretty terrible. And it's just disappointing football coming out of Jacksonville. So, at this point, I think they should have fired Doug Peterson yesterday, to be honest with you. I think we need to get an interim head coach, and I think we need to be sending out those messages to Ben Johnson, lining him up to work with Trevor Lawrence in the offseason. So that's where my head's at right now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then, yes, obviously, summing this all up, give me the Texans. I think this is an easy win against them. I think they come in here, they handle business pretty easy. I feel like they'll embarrass the Jaguars. I mean, what the Jaguars did last week was just, I mean, I can't believe Peterson wasn't fired after that 47-10 loss to Buffalo. But yeah, I think give me another one of those weeks of a 47-10 loss. I think Doug Peterson is out the door that week. And yeah, I think from a fantasy aspect, I don't really want to start any Jaguars. I mean, you're forced to start Travis Etienne. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr. is a big play or bust at this point. Evan Ingram, depending on how bad the tight end situation is, I feel like you have to give him 1 week here to see if he's healthy and ready to go. I feel like you just have to start him, probably given your tight end situation. And then on the Texans side of the ball, obviously, Nico Collins is a dog. You're starting him every week. have to start Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell kind of, was okay last week. He got, towards the end of the game, he got, he saved himself in fantasy just for an okay mid below
Davis
average.
Mills saved him.
Yeah, exactly. Davis Mills saved him. And then what are the Joe Mixon? Sorry, I don't know if I can't remember
So
who
for the
passed.
Texans, I don't think Joe Mixon's going to play, but I just dropped Cam Akers in my leagues because it looks like Damian Pierce is going to play, and obviously Dare Ngubawale is going to be the third down back anyway. So if Damian Pierce and Cam Akers are both splitting, I don't want any pieces of this backfield. If Pierce doesn't go, then definitely you can push Akers pretty high up your rankings actually, and definitely put him in your flex. But yeah, you summed it up all perfectly. You got to start all the Texans receivers. You just have to off principle. You got CJ Stroud. He's going to have a lot of passing volume. And yeah, like you said, those three Jaguars, Brian Thomas Jr., ETN, and Evan Ingram, you do have to start just because they're going to be chasing this entire game. They're just going to be passing the entire game. It's going to be ugly. Trevor's going to throw some picks for sure. Start the Texans defense as well. But yeah, you do want to target this game because the Texans should put up a lot and the Jags will be chasing.
100%, yeah. Yeah, Ben Johnson sweepstakes. That's how I'm going to end this conversation.
Yeah, or maybe they scout Bobby Slowick in this one too. Someone they got to get someone. And
Bobby
they
Slowick's a dog, man. He should be a head coach, or even I can't believe Steve Spagnuolo, how he's not a head coach yet. Brian Flores. I mean, this is gonna be a good coaching carousel come next year. There's a lot of good coaches. Jesse Minter from the Chargers will probably be a head coaching candidate. I hope he stays, but he'll probably be a head coaching candidate. There's a lot of good coaches in this carousel.
Yeah, I think Clint Kubiak could be someone to watch out for the Jaguars as well. But let's go on to the next one. The 1-2 LA Rams are going to go into Chicago and play the 1-2 Bears, who are 2.5 point home favorites in this one. I'm actually very surprised that they are favored in this one. They were underdogs last week. I was surprised about that. And now, coming up a loss, they're favored at home against the Rams, who just beat the 49ers. So very interesting line to me. I think the Bears obviously are starting a lot slower than everyone predicted. They are getting better on offense every single week, and that defense is awesome. Obviously, the Rams are the most beat up team in the NFL, losing a lot of star players. Their whole offensive line is hurt, but the Bears' defensive line hasn't been playing too great. So I'll get my pick right out of the way. I think Stafford and Kyron find a way to do it by themselves again, just like they did last week. It was a two-man show against the 49ers. So I'm going to pick the Rams to go into Soldier Field, a very hostile environment, underdogs, and I think they're going to go get that win. Stafford will, outclass the rookie Caleb Williams in this one, and I'm going to pick the beat ups Rams to, get 2 wins in a row, become 2-2, and maybe hurry up the process of Puka and Cup coming back. So give me the Rams.
I like it. You decided this for me. I'm going to go against you. I wanted to go against you in this one, and I was flip-flopping because I could not give you an honest answer who I wanted to pick. But, for the sake of we're too close in rankings right now. I gotta try and give myself and get ahead of you in our pick'ems. So give me the Bears, give me Caleb Williams, give me a healthy Keenan Allen. It finally looked like last week Caleb Williams just started to click. It finally looked like it was just starting to get there. I mean, he had a good game. He threw for over 300 yards. I think him and Cole Kmet had a great connection last week. Should be somebody, should have definitely added this week in fantasy football. With Keenan Allen back, I'm excited. I'm excited for that connection to get better. It looked like, he was hyper targeting Keenan Allen in week one. I think he'll do the same thing in this week versus the LA Rams. And it's just a sturdy, solid defense for the Bears. And I just think they'll just be a little bit too talented for this Rams team. I'm yeah, as I just traded for Kyron Williams, I'm just not sure him and Matthew Stafford can do it all for this team. So just give me the overall better roster, in my opinion, the healthier roster in the Bears right now. And I think Caleb Williams has himself another good game.
Yeah, definitely fair. It's going to be a very, very close game down to the end, as that line shows. Going on to fantasy, like you said, Cole Kmet was a great addition. He definitely is a start because the tight end position is just so weak. He's already a top 5 tight end. He's got nice PFF grades. He's played really good this season, coming off a great week. Got to start Cole Kmet. Romo Dunze, I was excited to start. Kind of sucks that Keenan Allen's coming back, honestly, because Odunze was looking really fun and looking like a really sharp start. So I guess you can only start DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. You're not too excited about really any of them just because all three of them are going to get a lot of volume. I think Odunze does get more worked into things, but yeah, it is DJ Moore and Keenan Allen until proven otherwise until Odunze proves that you can, you know, start him with all three of them out there. Running back wise, you're definitely not starting Swift. Get him on the waiver wire. I would prefer Roshan Johnson over Swift because it looks like he could end up taking over that role, kind of like Bucky Irving and Rashad White. And then for the Rams, you're starting Kyron. That's about it. You could, I guess I would prioritize the receivers as Tutu Atwell and Demarcus Robinson right next to each other. Demarcus Robinson isn't really a one, though, and Jalen Johnson will be guarding him because he is their one. So I think I'd go Tutu Atwell because he's going to get those intermediate targets. He's going to be the PPR point machine. So I'd go Tutu and then Demarcus Robinson. And then I'm not really touching anyone else unless you really want to throw a dart at Colby Parkinson.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And like I said, I have Keenan Allen on my fantasy team. If he's healthy and ready to go, I am starting him. I think him and Caleb should have a great connection. I think he will be a PPR monster. So in PPR leagues, I think Keenan Allen is definitely a high end flex. And I think he may be a league winner. I'm going to throw that out there. It might be a hot take of the podcast right now, but I think Keenan Allen could legitimately end up being a top 10 receiver in fantasy football just with his target share because he is a menace at getting open. And I think for our young rookie quarterback, I think that is something very calming and comfortable to look after. I know this team is loaded with talent, but just give me the veteran, give me the veteran wide receiver to help Caleb, progress, in his rookie season.
Yeah, I am. It is a hot take because I'm a little bit scared of Keenan just because of Odunze and because of the offense in general. I do see Odunze really, by the end of season, especially gaining more of a role. So I'm a little bit scared of Keenan. I'm even scared of DJ Moore, honestly. I could see a world where Odunze outproduces DJ Moore by the end of the season at this point. It's
Oh yeah.
just a weird offense. But yeah, all three of them you do kind of, I mean, the top two you definitely have to start for PPR purposes.
100%. Yeah. And this should be actually a pretty fun game too. This is a Dan Store split. So it should be one, that's on your TVs and you should be paying attention to.
Definitely have to watch this one. We'll go on to the next game. The 1-2 Denver Broncos are going to go into New York, play the 2-1 Jets, who are 7.5 point home favorites in this one. The Nathaniel Hackett revenge game. And this line is a little bit big for me because I do think it'll be a low scoring game. The Broncos defense is playing awesome. The Jets defense is obviously awesome against the rookie quarterback. It should be a pretty low scoring game. So that line is a little bit big, but I don't know. I think this game could go either way. I could see the Broncos really giving Aaron Rodgers fits because their pressures are just, Zach Allen's been one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. Olu Fashanu is getting his first start in the NFL. So I could see the Broncos defense giving immobile Rodgers, some fits. Obviously, Garrett Wilson will be shadowed by Patrick Surtain. So Alan Lazard and Mike Williams will really need to step up. It's going to be a close game, but give me the Jets. I can't pick the Broncos in this one. Give me the Jets in a close home battle. I really think it's going to be a close game, though. I'm not betting on that line at all. I'd maybe even take the Broncos against the spread, but I do think the Jets find a way. Brees Hall will find some gaps, maybe break off a long run like he always does against this Broncos team. And I'm not excited about Garrett Wilson in fantasy. I will say that for sure.
Oh, so I'm so sorry. I just blanked. Did you say give me the Broncos?
No, I'm taking the Jets in a close
Oh, okay.
game.
I was like getting excited. I was like, "Oh hell yeah, Dan! Ride the train." Bo Nix was incredible last week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The whole Broncos team was just absolutely dominant and just a good old fashioned butt whipping to Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which made me question the Buccaneers this week and whether they were the real deal or were just all show in those first 2 weeks. But the Broncos just came into last week, and I mean they were prepared, and the Buccaneers weren't, and they they let them know that we're NFL players too, and any given Sunday you can do anything. But Aaron Rodgers versus a rookie Bo Nix, and this Jets defense just with that incredible pass rush, Sauce Gardner. I feel like it's just going to be a real struggle to move the ball. And I do trust Aaron Rodgers just to be able to move the ball a little bit more, to have a little bit more push, you know, to get the team in the red zone and into scoring situations. So I will be taking the Jets as well, obviously, with this big line. But yeah, like you said, I think it could be a lower scoring, closer game than we expect. And Garrett Wilson, like you said, he's going to be matched up on Pat Surtain. If you do have a better option, I wish I should have it pulled up right now, but I don't know if Pat Surtain's allowed any number one receiver to even have a remotely like 30-yard weeks. I mean, Mike Evans did absolutely nothing. And honestly, just because it is Pat Surtain, I might be looking for a different option other than Garrett Wilson. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I'm not confident Garrett Wilson has more than 30 yards in this game.
Yeah, I don't think DK, George Pickens, or um who they oh who am I
Mike
forgetting?
Evans.
Mike Evans. Yeah, Mike Evans had a terrible game. I don't think either of the three went over 30 yards. So I do think it's scary for sure. Obviously, he's their like only receiver for the Jets. So I don't know, maybe you have to put him in your flex, but if you're a stacked team and you have a better option, I could consider going away from it because there's really no ceiling at all. And he already has been struggling, you know, without Patrick Surtain opposite of him. So it's a scary matchup for sure.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we know who you have to. I mean, you kind of have to start Garrett Wilson. Obviously, I think this should be a good Brees Hall week. I think he gets it done, through the air, on the ground. I think he's going to do, I think Brees Hall will be the MVP of this game. Braylon Allen's intriguing too. I feel like another guy I just traded for in the Dan Stores big trade that just happened. I think Braylon Allen could have a decent game, and he may be worth a flex spot just because he is getting looks through the passing. He's getting involved in the offense. And with Garrett Wilson just going to be hovered by, the best defense player in the NFL, Pat Surtain, I'm looking at other options. Mike Williams, he's been ramping up every week. He's been known to be, effective in the versus the Broncos in the past. He may be an intriguing option. But yeah, I'm scared of Garrett Wilson. I gotta say that. I mean, you're gonna have to be forced to start him. But like you said, if you're in a deep league and you have more options, maybe look away from him.
Yeah, fantasy options in this game are just very scary in general. Like the only Bronco you're thinking of starting would be Sutton, but you can't start him in this matchup against Sauce Gardner matched up against them. This is the two best corners in the NFL in this matchup. So fantasy options are just scary. I don't think there's anyone you're starting for the Broncos, and then for the Jets, you put Mike Williams and uh, Alan Lazard and close your eyes. Same with Garrett Wilson. You kind of just close your eyes and hope that one of them gets a touchdown with that Aaron Rodgers connection. But yeah, and then Brees Hall, you're just smashing. But that should be it. Bo Nix looked really good last week. Looked like a very improved quarterback, a very confident quarterback. And this Broncos defense is playing great, so it should be a pretty good game.
100%. Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. This one will definitely be on my TV. I know it is a Dan Stores agreement, so you shouldn't have it on your TV, but it should be a pretty fun game.
Yep, another Seekers guarantee. We'll go on to the next game. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are undefeated, are going into Indy to play the 1-2 Colts. The Steelers are
I got to pause. I think it's another Seekers guarantee. I don't even think we have to talk about this game.
just gloss right over this game. We got the Steelers to go into Indy and completely ruin Anthony Richardson's life. Anthony Richardson will be seeing complete
Yep.
ghosts. He was seeing ghosts against the soft Bears defensive line last week. So this Steelers defense, who's literally been the number one defense in the NFL by every single measure on the back end and the front end, they're going to be dominant in Indy. You can get that right out of the way. They're going to be just completely dominant. They might have a PTSD type of effect on Anthony Richardson, where this might just ruin his career in this game, like Sam Darnold.
Yeah, this Sam Darnold, Adam Gase seeing ghosts. This is gonna happen. This Steelers team is just dominant. We don't really need to talk about this game. I think we just get right into the fantasy relevant starters. Obviously, on the Colts side of things, you have to start Jonathan Taylor. He's a must start every single week. Other than that, I'm not starting anyone on the Colts. Are you? I think it's just Jonathan Taylor or bust. I'm benching Anthony Richardson. I don't think he is startable in fantasy football. If you had Anthony Richardson, I sure as hope you got Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. I hope you had a contingency plan if worst case scenario happened, which it did. So Anthony Richardson is now, he has joined the bench. I don't think you have to cut him, but he is now firmly, three or four spots down on the bench, patiently waiting to prove us wrong.
Yeah, we were already benching like Michael Pittman, and against the number one defense in the NFL, you're only starting Jonathan Taylor against this defense, and that is it. No one else on the Colts you're touching. For the Steelers, you can start Fields, especially in a super flex league if you want, but he doesn't really have the rushing upside, and they are on the road, so I don't love that start. George Pickens should have a really fun week in this one. I expect Pickens to maybe get his first touchdown. Maybe the Steelers get their first passing touchdown, and Pickens has a pretty nice game through the air. And then I do think Najee Harris, I had his over already in the lock of the week segment. I think Najee Harris has a pretty big game here without Jalen Warren. I think Patterson could be a nice little flex option, but I do think they really just win on the ground. And this Colts defense has been so bad without DeForest Buckner. That run defense has been historically bad. So give me Justin Fields and Najee Harris and Cordell Patterson to run all over this team, and then Pickens and Freiermuth could be nice options.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think we wrap this one up real quick. This Steelers team, again, just dominant football. TJ Watt deserves to be defensive MVP. They're playing good football, and the Steelers been doing the same thing for the past 30 years. They're just dominant. Their defensive line is dominant. They play a smash mouth style of football. And I shout out Justin Fields. I don't think he's been incredible. I don't think he deserves this incredible, like, bow down, but he is playing a lot smarter football than he has in the past. He's not making boneheaded mistakes. He's just playing serviceable football, and that's all the Steelers need to win.
A much more cerebral Justin Fields that we are seeing. A little bit of a Mickey Mouse 4-0 that we got the Steelers getting here, but they will be undefeated regardless. Let's go on to the next game. The 0-3 Cincinnati Bengals are going to go into the Carolina and play the 1-2 Panthers. Bengals are 4-point road favorites. This is the Andy Dalton Red Rifle revenge game. Should be very fun. A big revenge game. Used to take those Bengals teams to the playoffs every year with AJ Green. I have PTSD from it, from being a Broncos fan. That Bengals team is really tough in the playoffs, but not the same anymore because that Bengals defense is the softest defense I've ever seen. I don't know what happened to Lou Anarumo, but that defense is just so bad. The secondary can't tackle. It's so bad. The run defense is non-existent. A lot of injuries on that defensive line as well. So that Bengals defense is so bad. They're 0-3. I got to say something funny. There's only 3 0-3 teams, and all 3 coaches are associated with Zach Taylor here. Obviously, Zach Taylor is 0-3. You got Press Taylor, the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive coordinator. He's 0-3. And then you've got Callahan going over to Tennessee. He's 0-3. So maybe this Bengals coaching staff is not as good as we thought, because it's been really rough. You lose to the Commanders at home. It is time to panic. I think it's a 10 out of 10 on the panic meter. Time to panic. They might just miss the playoffs. And we had them winning the division. So we were wrong on the Bengals. We'll take our L there. It's pretty gross. I guess I'll get my pick out of the way. I got the Bengals winning, but I don't think it'll be pretty. I think the Panthers offense puts up a lot of points, honestly. I think they might even sweat this game out and right until the end. But I do think the Bengals offense is ultimately more talented.
Yeah, this is hard because it is just such a depleted Bengals team. I mean, Joe Burrow did make some incredible throws last week, but he does just look like a shell of himself. He doesn't look right. He just doesn't feel like he's playing with that swagger and confidence that he is and that he has behind him. Um, but yeah, it's just you gotta give the notch to the Bengals have, started slow in the past, and this is what we said the last couple weeks. I didn't think they'd start 0-3 slow and lose to a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, but I mean, yeah, I mean it is like you said. I think it's time to hit the panic button. Obviously Trent Brown goes down last week. Maurice Mims went in. I guess I didn't pay too much attention to how Maurice Mims did. I'm almost curious. Can we look up his PFF grade?
Yeah, let's see. He had a 47.7 PFF grade. Obviously not great, but I mean, it's a rookie coming in for the first time. But it looks like he could be starting this one, and he might be going against Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, I mean, and he did go up against the Dan Quinn defense, so it is a well-coached defense. The game scheme was there, so I mean, a 46 not terrible for your first start ever, having to come in mid-game. It's not great, it's not impressive, but it's not the worst.
Hey, Jadeveon Clowney's like 90 years old, and his PFF grade on the season is 52, so not the worst.
Yeah. Well, you want to guess what Trey Pipkins' PFF grade was last week?
24. I don't know.
Oh, lower,
Oh, 18.
lower.
That's pathetic.
Keep going, keep going.
7.
Lower.
No way. That's
You
impossible.
got a 1.5 PFF grade. Pass blocking PFF grade. I didn't even know that existed or it was even possible. You got a 1.5 pass blocking PFF grade. That's going back to the previous game. That's how dominant the Steelers defensive line is. They ruined careers.
That's just pathetic. That's got to be the worst of all time.
I think it is the worst of all time. It's crazy. But back to this game. I really, really, really want to go with the Andy Dalton Carolina Panthers. I just can't do it. I'm not ballsy enough to do it at this moment. The Panthers have burned me. They burned me so bad week 1. But I mean, that performance against the Raiders was incredible. I mean, that I think we all knew it was coming. We just knew Andy Dalton was going to come out and sling 300 yards. We just all felt it. No one wanted to really say it out loud, but I think we all felt it. But I think it'll regress to the mean this week, and I think the Bengals are just due and destined for a win. So just give me the Bengals in this one.
Yep. And then going on to fantasy for the Bengals, you're really just starting everyone. You're starting everyone in this entire matchup for the Bengals and Panthers. Obviously, Higgins is not a bad play in this one. Chase is not a bad play. Yoshavash is not a bad play. Zach Moss could have a massive game with no Derek Brown and this soft Panthers run defense. So you're starting everyone. And then for the Panthers, Deontay Johnson's a top play. I would go trade for him if you can. I already tried in my league. I think Deontay Johnson is going to be awesome with no Adam Thielen. He's going to be a PPR machine. Chuba Hubbard is a great play in this matchup as well with how soft the Bengals defense has been. And Xavier Leggett could be a nice little dart throw as well with some high upside. So definitely target this game in fantasy. Some bad defense will be played.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think you hit the nail on the head. Going to be an interesting game though. So I mean, it is a Dan and Store's lock of the week, but not a confident one.
Yep, Seekers guarantee. Let's go on to our honorable mention for our Seekers game of the week, though, because this is going to be an awesome game. The 2-1 Washington Commanders are going to go into Arizona and play the 1-2 Cardinals. Cardinals are 3-point home favorites in this one. They're 1-2, but they've had a pretty hard, unfavorable schedule. So I do think they start, to rack up some wins. They've been playing some pretty good football. The offense is awesome. The defense isn't the greatest. I think Jaden Daniels has his way. He has a pretty good game. He's coming off a literal perfect game. It might be the best PFF graded quarterback performance ever seen. He was just a perfect quarterback last week. He just played, it was a college offense, but it was just perfectly executed. So respect to him. I think it's going to be an awesome game, targeted in fantasy, high scoring game. Not much defense being played in this one, but give me the Cardinals in a close game at home. I think they bounce back. They definitely have had a hard schedule, and I think they overcorrect here and they win. No Austin Eckler, who's actually been playing really good this season. You got to start fire up some Brian Robinson overs, but give me the Cardinals.
I'm right there with you. You know, Jaden Daniels really impressive. It feels like a Robert Griffin the third. Like, just feels like I'm rewatching that. I think it was at 20. Was that a 2011 draft or 2012 draft?
2012, I believe.
2012, yeah, Robert Griffin and Andrew Luck, and you just saw Robert Griffin just incredible in his rookie season. That's what I feel like I'm watching with Jaden Daniels right now. He is quite impressive. He's accurate. He's on time. You know, the reads are there. They're simple. You know, the way Cliff Kingsbury is calling these games is very much catering to Jaden Daniels. It was good to see Terry McLaurin get fired up last week and actually get a touchdown and really have a good game. Hopefully he does that again against the Cardinals. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Cardinals, I'm surprised the Cardinals are 1-2. I feel like they're a better football team. I feel like they just let some games, I feel like they just let obviously week one and then last week just really slip away from them. And I feel like they are a better football team. So I feel like they just need to get on track. And I feel like this is a good game to do it. It's going to be a tough fought battle. But I do think Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think their offense is just, solid. I think their defense with Jonathan Gannon will just do enough to make Jaden Daniels uncomfortable. And again, I like that line. I think it'll come down to a field goal.
Yeah, it definitely will be a high scoring, close game down to the end. The Commanders were the team that we were the most wrong about, though. Like, we just got to give them a shout out because we did not expect Jaden Daniels to be this good this early, this team to be this good this early. So respect to the Commanders. They could really make a push for the NFC East even and, make a playoff push. So respect to them. Going into fantasy, Brian Robinson, like I said, take all of his overs, go try to trade for him. I think he's going to be awesome with no Eckler. He's just going to be a great, great play getting the receiving work as well. He can, you know, he's capable of having a good receiving game. So definitely fire up Brian Robinson. Scary Terry coming off a big game. You can be way more confident to start him in your flex than previously, who I was saying to bench. So you can definitely start those two. And then Jane Daniels is a must start top quarterback play. And then for the Cardinals, who you're starting James Conner, Marvin Harrison, Kyler Murray. All great plays. Trey McBride might not play, so the ripple effect may be Michael Wilson having a really nice game. Maybe if Trey McBride doesn't play, I would go instantly pick up Michael Wilson and maybe even start him in your flex. But if McBride plays, you got to start him because he's an absolute stud.
100% agree with you. And you, this is, let's move on to the next game. One we're not going to be quite as excited to talk about.
Yeah, not as exciting. the New England Patriots, who are 1-2, are going to go into San Fran and play the 49ers, who are 1-2. Very crazy to say that coming off two pretty bad losses against the Vikings and Rams. The 49ers are 10-point home favorites in this one, though. And I think that's a pretty fair line. The Patriots have been competitive, but the Niners are going to be pissed off coming off two straight losses. They're going to be very pissed off. So give me the Niners at home in this one to be pissed off and just, kind of roll over this Patriots team. This Patriots secondary is pretty solid. Ayuk might be limited in fantasy again. This man right here, the absolute GOAT, the legend, the absolute king, Jawan Jennings, should be benefiting from, Christian Gonzalez shadowing Ayuk. And I do think Jawan Jennings moves around and has a pretty solid game. Obviously, if Kittle plays, you're not as excited. You do kind of have to start Jawan Jennings off of principle, off of, riding the flames, even if Kittle plays. But give me the Niners in this one. I think it's a pretty fun matchup.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of a gross. I don't know. It just feels kind of gross, this matchup overall in general to me. Two 1-2 teams. Obviously, the 49ers are underperforming. It's crazy to say we're 3 weeks into the season and the 49ers are 1-2. Just a gross matchup, just underperforming 49ers team. However, I think this is a good get right game. I think they need to come in here and I think they need to give the Patriots a good old fashioned butt whooping. And I think they will. Obviously they have a lot of players banged up, but this one still should be one where they come in and, say pretty much our roster is better than your roster and we are going to manhandle you and win. So, yeah, give me the 49ers in kind of a gross game. Oh, mute.
Not much more to be said. Fantasy wise, you're just starting Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots, and even then, you're very scared about it. Hunter Henry's a little bit scary against this pretty tough 49ers team. So I'm really just starting Ramondre, and I'm very scared about that because it's going to be a terrible game script and a terrible matchup for him, really. And then for the Niners, you're starting Ayuk. You're scared about it after, him just having a terrible start. Like, dude, you're a grown man. You're a grown NFL athlete making millions. I don't think you need 4 weeks to get back to speed. Just start playing better. It's honestly frustrating, and I'm not even an Ayuk fantasy manager, but the dude just got to play better. He's literally not even an alpha when Jawan Jennings is opposite of him, and he's letting Debo be the alpha when he's in. So I don't know. Brandon Ayuk's kind of frustrating to me. Kittle, you got to start if he does start, obviously, and then Jordan Mason's a league winner at this point because Christian McCaffrey's going to Germany to see a specialist. That's not a good sign. I'm not a doctor, but going to Germany to see a specialist is not a good sign. It's looking like Jordan Mason might literally play in the fantasy playoffs and be the absolute league winner. So you're firing up all the Niners.
The curse of the number one overall player lives on. And if you watched the Seekers and a mock draft we did previously, I said this was a possibility and I said it'll probably happen. I said, you'll look CeeDee Lamb, look Tyreek Hill, look elsewhere other than Christian McCaffrey because the curse is real and it will always be real. So I'm just going to toot my own horn there because I warned everyone. I warned everyone on this channel. So if you drafted Christian McCaffrey, I blame yourself.
Stores did say I called him crazy for it, but he did say he had some vibes. The vibes were off with Christian McCaffrey, and he was right. It wasn't the greatest analysis; it was kind of a guess. I'll be honest, but he was right. So I'll give him his respect for that. Definitely, I feel terrible if you drafted Christian McCaffrey first overall. It's just crazy, crazy work from the Niners not telling anyone all offseason. But let's go on to the next one. A fun AFC West matchup. The 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs are going into LA and playing the 2-1 Chargers. The Chiefs are 7.5-point road favorites in this one, and I think a big part of that is due to the Chargers' injuries, especially notably Justin Herbert's health. I picked up the Chiefs defense in fantasy because I don't think Herbert should play. I know he's a tough, tough guy. Personally, I think he might be too tough for his own goodness. Just don't play in this one. I don't think you're
He
gonna
shouldn't
win
have played
regardless.
last week.
Yeah,
He shouldn't
he
have
just
played last week.
yeah.
He shoots himself in the foot. Like you said, he goes out there and it's reckless. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, you're playing on one leg. It's like take a week off. You're only hurting your team at this point. But yeah, I'll let you go on.
Well, yeah, especially going against TJ Watt last week, and then you're going against Chris Jones this week and Mahomes. I just think take the week off. They have a bye week after. I know you're a tough guy, but you don't need to prove it to anyone. I would probably sit the week out. If he doesn't, if he plays, if he toughs it out, it should be a pretty fun game, actually, a back and forth AFC West battle. These games always are fun. But I got to go with the Chiefs just because of all the injuries and that Herbert, situation being so 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, and I saw an update, and I watch a lot of Chargers podcasts and everything, and I think everyone's on the same page. It's just like at this point, Derwin James is suspended. Joe Alt is dealing with a MCL sprain. Um, Rashawn Slater has a strained pec. Joey Bosa re-aggravated his hip. Derwin James got suspended. Otito Ogbonnia, one of your best run defenders, is hurting out. It's just like just rest your starters. Give them a 2 week bye. I mean, I don't think anyone thought it would be bad if the Chargers went into the bye week 2-2. I think that's a win. I think Jim Harbaugh's been playing tough, but get your guys healthy, get them right, because I just feel like even best case scenario for the Chargers, Justin Herbert does play and he's okay. It's just like why at this point? Why play 50% when you can rest 2 weeks and get yourself back up to 80, 90% and be your most effective self instead of hurting your season and just playing at 50% all season. So it would be nice. I think that's what people in Chargers community want to see is just get healthy. But I don't know. I have a feeling Justin Herbert is going to play. And that really won't matter because this team is so injured. I mean, both of your starting tackles are out. Just please, Taylor Heineke, just please play. If we somehow win, give Jim Harbaugh all his flowers, give him all his roses. He's changed the culture. If Jim Harbaugh went in here and won with Taylor Heineke, how respectable would that be? Just how respectable would that be? I mean, even if he went in, I don't even want Herbert to play just because I don't want to risk any further injury. I mean, at this point, I mean, Cam Hayward and the Steelers were well aware that his ankle was hurt, and when the time came, Cam Hayward, after Justin Herbert was being tackled by two other people. I mean, I'm not gonna say things that I shouldn't, but it kind of looked like there was a little bit of a purposely, I'm going after that ankle. I want to roll up on you. I want you out of this game. And that's exactly what teams do. It's just football. When a player's hurt, you're gonna target that area of where they're hurt. And so it's just like just get yourself healthy, get yourself right. This is a game that almost feels impossible to win. It feels like the cards are all against you. But then again, it could be some kind of Cinderella story. However, yeah, the Chiefs will probably win by 20, so I don't even like the line. I think it's two. I think it's too low. I would give the Chiefs at like 10, 12 would be a more fair line.
Yeah, it was at 8.5, but it went down after Herbert says he's going to try to play. I do think a fully healthy Chargers, it's a little bit unfortunate because the Chiefs aren't the same Chiefs. They're not playing, that playoff form that they are. They're kind of, they're beatable right now, I think. So it is a little bit unfortunate. I think the fully healthy Chargers are actually a pretty tough matchup for the Chiefs specifically. It's a little bit of a bad matchup for the Chiefs, but yeah, I got to pick the Chiefs just considering the circumstances. I hope Herbert doesn't play, but if he does, I think it'll be a little bit too much playing injured against this team.
Yeah, I'd say when five of your six best players are hurt, like you said, it really would have been a fun matchup at this point in the season when both teams are healthy, both teams are right to play each other. Like it would have been a hell of a matchup if Herbert, your two tackles, Bosa, Derwin wasn't suspended. I mean, the Derwin suspension was a little Mickey Mouse to me. I mean, the guy who almost killed Devontae Smith doesn't get suspended, and Derwin gets suspended for this game. I don't know. I want the officiating to be a little bit more fair. I want it to be a little bit more consistent. I guess I'm going to call out the refs for not being consistent with their calls, which is a fair criticism. I mean, how does who was it who hit Devontae Smith again?
I don't honestly know.
I mean, that was a brutal hit. That was, that literally injured him. I thought Derwin's it was just a football play. He was playing hard and fast and free. And so I thought it was a little bit of a Mickey Mouse, suspension. It felt a little Mickey Mouse to me.
Yeah, he's getting that Kareem Jackson treatment. Going
Yeah.
on to fantasy, though, for the Chargers, man, it's so depressing. If Herbert doesn't go, I don't even know if Dobbins is a start. You're obviously not starting in the receivers if Herbert doesn't go, but it's a little bit scary. Obviously, Dobbins got the main full force of the workload. Obviously, Gus Edwards is phasing himself out of the offense with the way that he's playing. So Dobbins, you can start, especially if Herbert goes, but it's just very scary in this matchup against Chris Jones and a very beat up offensive line and Herbert beat up. It's just very scary vibes for me for the Chargers fantasy wise, and then for the Chiefs, you obviously who you're starting. You're starting the superstars, and then Carson Steele's a little bit scary for me with Kareem Hunt coming into the mix with P Ryan getting the third down work. It's a little bit scary, but you can start Steele in a pinch, and I think he's the only fringe option. I could see him scoring. So
Definitely could see Carson Steele scoring in this one. Uh, However, Lad McConkey is interesting. I think he's a borderline flex play. Taylor Heineke, when he did go in, looked and did target um, Lad McConkey. So I feel like who Taylor Heineke feels comfortable from what I saw in the limited game film. I feel like if you have Lad McConkey, I don't think he's a terrible. I think it is scary, but I think he's borderline a flex play.
yeah, definitely the best receiver play for the Chargers. But with that, let's go on to the next game. The 1-2 Cleveland Browns are going to go into Vegas and play the 1-2 Raiders, who are 2-point favorites at home in this one. And I'm a little bit surprised by that. I'm very, interested by the Raiders being favorites in this one after coming off that loss against the Panthers, not looking the greatest. I'm gonna get my pick out of the way. I'm gonna go with the Browns. Not confident about it, but the Raiders had a pretty bad performance last week. The Browns had a pretty bad performance against the Giants, I guess. But I do think the Browns are the more talented team, definitely the better defense. But Deshaun Watson, man, this team is missing the hell out of Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was just so much more competitive with this team. They were competitive in the playoffs with Joe Flacco, so they definitely made a mistake letting go of Joe Flacco. I think Jameis Winston could really be used for this Browns team. He'd make them a lot more competitive, but I'm going to take the Browns. They just have a better defense, definitely a better secondary, can kind of limit Bowers and Adams, who are really the bright spots for that Raiders offense. And then I do think Max Crosby has a day. I don't know if Conklin's going to go in this one. So Max Crosby versus Myles Garrett will be very fun, but I'm going to take the Browns to win just off roster talent. I'm not confident about it. That line is a little bit sus to me, but I'll go with the Browns.
I'm right there with you. And I think there's bad vibes coming from the Raiders right now. As Antonio Pierce said, players are making business decisions. It doesn't feel like they're bought in. They got, I mean, absolutely embarrassed by the Panthers. I mean, I started their defense last week. Should have known better. Obviously, when the Red Rifle was coming out of retirement, should have known there was a resurgence game coming. But however, I am just scared of the Raiders right now. I feel like there is just I feel like they're starting to question Antonio Pierce. I feel like they were really bought in last year and just happy to not have Josh McDaniels as the head coach. But now I feel like the organization, the players, they're starting to question Antonio Pierce, and I just feel like it is going downhill. And however, I'm not high on Deshaun Watson at all, but I am high on the roster talent, and I think it will overwhelm the Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. You said it perfectly with the Raiders. You were lower on Antonio Pierce than I was, and I am willing to admit I was wrong about Antonio Pierce. He is more of just a CEO, a rah-rah type of coach. He's not really a good X's and O's coach. Don't love Antonio Pierce's outlook at all. I could totally see him being sacked at the end of the season for sure. Gardner Minshew's on a very short lease as well. Going into fantasy, I think you can easily start both of these defenses. These defenses should be dominant, obviously with Crosby and Garrett. You could start Amari Cooper coming off a pretty big week. I guess you can start him. The usage is there, a lot of target share for him. I'm not really looking to start anyone else. Maybe if Njoku plays, you can start him. Jerome Ford's a little bit scarier, but you can start him in the flex. It's a theme. All these guys are just kind of scary for the Browns, but you can start them. And then for the Raiders, it's Bowers and Adams. You're not very excited about it against the secondary, but you do have to start them. And I'm not looking to start any of those running backs in this matchup. And I think that should be it.
Yeah, you summed that up pretty perfectly. It was good to see Amari Cooper have a good bounce back last week. It was obviously a favorable matchup versus the Giants, but 7 receptions on 12 targets for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns was a refreshing sight to see from Amari Cooper.
Yeah, needed to see that one, or else I was completely out on Cooper. So big game from him. Let's go on to this electric Sunday night game, the matchup of the week. The 3-0 Bills are going into Baltimore to play the 1-2 Ravens. Ravens are 2.5-point home favorites against these rolling Bills, which is a little bit interesting. I think this is going to be one of those games that whoever has the ball last wins. It's going to be a back and forth offensive battle. Give me the Ravens to be the team with the last of the ball with that game-winning field goal. Give me a Justin Tucker game-winning field goal and a legendary game in this one. I think both quarterbacks are just going to have awesome outings and just completely put up a lot of points in the Sunday night game, win a lot of people some fantasy matchups as well. So really looking forward to this game. It's going to be an electric one. James Cook is playing some great football. That Bills defense has been impressive. That secondary has been impressive. But give me the Ravens, man. I just have a feeling to get it done at home. They're coming off a big, spanking on the Cowboys. I think they're gaining some confidence. Lamar's playing pretty pissed off, and I could see, Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Andrews getting more involved than they have been in this one. Give me the Ravens, man.
I like it because I'm gonna go completely opposite. I'm gonna go with the Bills. I think the Bills are the best, team in the AFC right now. I think they're playing incredible football. Josh Allen, it was fun because I mean, it doesn't feel like he has to be Superman, but he still is just playing incredible football. He's limiting mistakes. It just feels like there's a new culture with Stephon Diggs out of the Bills. It just feels like the ball's being dispersed. James Cook and the running game is getting going. So I love the Bills. I love the culture of the Bills. I think they are playing, the best football in the NFL. Right? I mean, I think in all the NFL right now. I think they're the team to beat, honestly, right now, in my opinion. So yeah, give me the Bills. I'm confident. I think Josh Allen is the best player in the league right now, and he's certainly showing it. He's certainly playing like it. And yeah, I'm feeling confident in the Bills. I think they'll honestly I think they'll handle the Ravens with ease, in my opinion. I think it'll be. I think with the Ravens, I think the Ravens have shown where they're vulnerable at, and I think the Bills will attack it.
Yeah, very fun game. Like you said, I do think the Bills are the Super Bowl favorites right now. I could totally see Josh Allen winning that MVP, going to the Super Bowl, which is so fun for Bills fans, man. This is a really fun football team. That Bills offense is fun. Speaking of fun, let's go on to fantasy. That whole Bills offense you're starting. Don't need to talk about it. Khalil Shakir is a must start, in my opinion, as a fringe player. Keon Coleman, you can throw a dart at in this game. He was obviously disciplined for being late in the first quarter of last game. So I do think he could be a nice little buy low candidate, someone that you should target, and you could start in the flex in this high scoring matchup. For the Ravens, you got to start obviously Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. They're scary. I think in this matchup you can start them though. It's going to be like that Chiefs game where they just really had to feed the offensive weapons, and I think Isaiah Likely could have a game this one. He's the number one highest graded PFF tight end, which is interesting. I do think you said it to me earlier. If he has a bad game in this one, specifically, like this is a clone of the Chiefs matchup. If he has a bad game in this one, you can look to drop Isaiah Likely, but I do think he has a pretty decent game in this one. It could be a big brain start to start Likely. Mark Andrews could be good in this matchup as well. I just think the whole offenses for both teams are going to have to really show out in this matchup. So definitely target this matchup for betting and fantasy.
Yeah, 100%. I think this will be a high scoring game. I think it's just going to be a shootout. I feel like the Ravens are going to be chasing. So I like the passing. I like the overs in yards and passing on this game. So that's definitely where I'll be putting my money at.
All right, and let's go on to the first of two Monday night games here. The 0-3 Tennessee Titans are going to go into Miami to play the 1-2 Dolphins, who are 1 point home favorites in this one, which is very interesting without Tua, obviously. It looks like it's going to be Tyler Huntley, though. And if it is Tyler Huntley, only if it is Tyler Huntley, give me the Dolphins to get the win here. I'm going to go with the home favorites in this one with Tyler Huntley, Snoop Dogg Huntley. Absolutely love him. I think he is the best option for this team moving forward until they get Tua back. And they need to get Tua back fast because this AFC is very competitive and they need to get some wins on the board. Huntley isn't the greatest quarterback in the world, but he should be, a harder game plan. This Titans defense is really solid. That defensive line is solid. Achane might be a little bit limited in this one, but give me the Dolphins. I just have a feeling that Huntley has a pretty fun game at home in the Hard Rock. Give me the Dolphins, and I'm not very confident on it, but I just have a gut feeling here.
I like it. I like it. If Snoop Dogg Huntley, former Pro Bowl quarterback Huntley plays, it's definitely going to be a little bit more competitive than if Skylar Thompson plays. But I think Will Levis, the most meme quarterback in the NFL, I think this is the week where he doesn't get memed. I think he can come in here. I think, this defense is good enough to carry their team to a win. So give me the Titans in their first win of the season. I think they'll just be able to do enough. Even if Tyler Huntley plays, I'm just confident that the defense is going to be able to shut them down. And then the Titans offense is going to be, I think it's going to come down to field possession. And I do trust the Titans offense to just give them enough, hassle and to be pinning them down in their own goal line just to make it tough. And I feel like this is going to come down to field possession. Who makes the mistake first. And Will Levis is obviously very, very mistake prone. He does it a lot. But I think in this one, it's just they gotta flip the script. They have to flip the script. Give me the Titans in their first win.
Yeah, do you remember that Monday night game last year? The Titans went into Miami and spoiled the Dolphins with Tua playing. Will Levis had a great game, so I could totally see that repeating. Obviously, with Huntley out there, I just got a gut feeling going into fantasy for the Titans. You're definitely starting Tony Pollard.
Oh,
Spears'
yes.
work hasn't been anywhere near where we thought it would be as a 50-50 split. So Tony Pollard's a great start. DeAndre Hopkins coming off a pretty solid game. He's getting more work every single week. So Hopkins could be a nice little flex play. Calvin Ridley, you do have to put in flex, but you're scared about it coming off a very bad performance. But he also had two decent performances to start the season. So you're not panicking all the way on Ridley yet, but you are starting to get there. You're starting to get a little bit scared. And then for the Dolphins, man, Chan going up against Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat. You're not excited about it. I don't think the ceiling is crazy unless he breaks off a long run. He should have the receiving work. He should, have a nice little baseline. And Mostert might be back. So you're not smashing Chan as a top five play, but you do have to start him. He should be pretty solid. Tyreek Hill, you have to start. And I didn't want to say this because you had Jalen Waddle like an hour ago, but now I have Jalen Waddle. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think Jalen Waddle is a start without Tua. I think it's just Chan and Tyreek Hill. I didn't want to say this because you had him. I didn't want to be rude, but yeah, I don't think Waddle to start, man, until Tua's out there, and then he's a good play, obviously. But I think with
I did have Jalen Waddle on my bench in favor of
yeah.
Keenan Allen and Lad McConkey, so I was on the same page as you.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of how it has to be right now until proven otherwise. Maybe Huntley really favors him, but I got to see it first before starting him. And I think that's it for this game.
Yeah, I think you just summed it up perfectly. Should be another shit fest of the week.
Let's go on to maybe the funnest game of the week. Some really fun matchups, but this one is very fun. The 3-0 Seahawks are going to go into Detroit and play the 2-1 Lions, a big NFC playoff implication matchup here. The Lions are 3.5 point home favorites. They got their blackout unis at home. I think the Seahawks are due for a loss, though, man. They've been playing some, somewhat mid teams pretty close. They got a 3-0 record, though. I'm going to give it to the Lions here with the blackout unis at home. I think Amon-Ra is a big game. I think Montgomery, who's been playing awesome, has a huge game. Speaking of Montgomery, he's only got one less target per game than Gibbs. Like he's just been a crazy fantasy still. He's caught all of his targets. He's obviously incredible on the ground. I think they're going to run it a lot in this game. Even if they pass a lot, I think Montgomery and Gibbs get a lot of work. I think those, weapons on the Lions have a great game. Don't know if Laporta will be playing. It's kind of a game time decision here. But give me the Lions at home. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. The Seahawks are fun. I think this is a JSN game, especially matchup wise. I think JSN has a pretty big game, but give me the Lions.
Yeah, I'm on the exact same page, and the uniforms have a big part to do with it. They're going to be looking good. They're going to be looking fresh. Amon-Ra is going to go out there. He's going to put up. I think, yeah, like you said, this could be like a 20 target game for Amon-Ra. That's how confident I am. And like you said, I agree. I think the Seahawks are due for a loss. I feel like, very impressive. Shout out Mike McDonald, first three games of his head coaching career. He's 3-0. I'm not gonna knock him for that. But like you said, it hasn't been the hardest schedule so far. And I think this is going to be a little reality. I think this is where the Seahawks really test themselves. So, this is, as Jim Harbaugh said last week, let's see what we're made of when we go and play the Steelers, and a well coached, a well oiled machine that's just rolling hot. So this will be a good matchup for both teams, honestly. But yeah, I think this is the Seahawks' first real tough matchup. And however, I do just feel more confident in this Lions roster to just get the job done.
Yep, absolutely. Should be a very electric game, back and forth, down to the end. One of the more intriguing games of the week. Love that it's the last game of the week. There will be some matchups in Fantasy 1 in this game. There's a lot of superstars in this game going on to Fantasy. I don't know if Kenneth Walker is playing. You might have more info than me. It's very sucks that it's the last game of the week. That's very brutal.
It's just not fair, man. Why do you do this to us?
Same with Laporta too. Like they're both very questionable, and it's the last game of the week. Those are two huge pieces for fantasy teams. It's tough.
Yeah, and I don't have any, is as I'm reading, Walker's oblique is listed as inactive. That was Sunday, considering Seahawks. This is Walker is doubtful to suit up Sunday due to the oblique injury. Oh yeah, they haven't even given us really anything on Walker. Let's see. Kenneth Walker missed a second straight game. No, is there all this? Where's his practice schedule?
Yeah, I don't think he
They haven't
practiced
even
today. I
gotten
don't
an
even.
update.
Yeah, they didn't practice today because they have that Monday game. So we'll have to you guys just have to monitor that situation, monitor Walker. Obviously, you're starting whatever Seahawks running back starts. Hopefully Walker's back, but if not, Charbonnet's another smash play. With the Lions, you might want to have a backup plan for Laporta. Maybe just start another tight end if you have an option, or just pick up Noah Fant or Brock Wright if you have Laporta. But other receiving options, you're starting all the Lions stars. Don't need to talk about anyone on the Lions because you're starting all of them. I think JSN, like I said, is one of my plays of the week. I think he has an awesome matchup in this one. I love DK. Obviously, he's hot. I'm playing against him, and I'm scared about it. And then Lockett, I'm a little bit scared of. I don't think I'm starting Lockett. I think he's more of a drop than a start.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm panicking though because I just didn't really even put two and two together. I am a Kenneth Walker fantasy owner, and I didn't even put two and two together that he's playing on Monday till just barely. So now I got to come up with a contingency plan. I did have Jalen Waddle as of an hour ago, who played Monday night, who was on my bench. That is no longer a flex option. So now we've got to drum up something else.
Yeah, maybe Noah Fant can be in your flex, man.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I did just acquire Zach Moss. So I mean,
Oh,
I have Kyron and Zach Moss as of right now. As if this trade gets upheld, please
sure.
make sure you vote on it. Let us know who you think won. Let you know if I got fleeced. Let me know. If Dan got fleeced, let him know. But yeah, Kenneth Walker. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully, we have information by Sunday. But yeah, as of right now, there's no information on his injury.
Yeah, definitely just stay monitored on Walker and Laporta. If you're an owner, obviously check those injury reports. But yeah, definitely thank you guys for tuning into our week 4 preview and picks episode. One more time, comment who you think won our trade. I acquire Bijan Robinson, Jalen Waddle, and Jonathan Brooks. Stores acquires Kyron Williams, Zach Moss, and Braylon Allen. So let us know who won that trade, how you guys think about that trade, and how you thought about this episode. Give us your picks for the week. Just comment, like, subscribe. Anything else, Stores?
Like for those of you who are just listening for my hot take and you missed it at the beginning of the episode, my hot take this week was Keenan Allen gets back on track with Caleb Williams after missing 2 games of injury, and he becomes a top 10 fantasy receiver. So my it's a very, very hot take, but if you trust Stores, go out, buy low on Keenan Allen.
My hot take will be Romo Dunze could be a league winner. So go buy low on Romo Dunze too. Either one. I like the Bears offense getting better each week. But thank you guys for tuning into another episode. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.
Peace.